Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to this second episode we will be having again with Jason Warwick. Welcome, Jason, to another episode of the podcast Only Love Remains, which I feel is very, very appropriate for the variable that you have been sharing with all of us, which you already started, but we will dive deeper into today. So what a blessing. And thank you so much for joining with me today.
Yeah, thanks, Marina. Our last talk was really joyful, and I look forward to continuing on today.
Yes. I feel like there is so much that wants to be shared and communicated, not only in words, but I feel like all the love that is behind it all, everything that has moved us and you throughout the whole year, and all that love I feel like wants to be shared
Mm.
through this so through this episode that we're doing. So I can feel it, so I feel a bit nervous and a bit like giggly and a little bit lost for words, but yeah, I trust that it will all unfold beautifully.
Beautiful. And you have us on split screen, so
Yes.
great.
Mm. Yes, and I feel it was such a blessing yesterday to start listening to all of the miracles that you have been experiencing since the very beginning. And we didn't say it on the episode, but when we finished, we continued talking for a little bit, and you shared how when you were in Mexico and you were flying to United States, you had a very deep prayer to go deeper. And that prayer was so strong. And then you share with me that soon after that, the diagnosis came. And then we were both like saying, wow, how powerful are prayers and how prayers are answered and how important it is to be conscious of what we're praying for. And then also by being aware of that prayer that you have, you could also see how everything was orchestrated to experience that love. Like while in the world they could say this is very bad news and this is terrible, if you see it from the perspective that wow, I have a deep prayer for love, and then anything that's not love needs to be pushed up into awareness so that we're able to see what we believe in. I'm sure you can maybe share, but I think you already did, if not, that at the very beginning you started seeing all those thoughts about death and about sickness, to really see them and expose them and release them in a real way where there can be an inner transformation. And I feel, yeah, as I was contemplating about it, I was like, wow, how wonderful it is to be aware of the prayers. And then we can see all of that as a blessing. And then how prayer also sustained you throughout the whole process. And in the first episode we went through all of the first stage, let's say, of that process, which was you going through chemo and how you use that as a backdrop for healing and forgiveness. And then we now maybe we can go into how that unfolded. How did the chemo go, and what happened after that, and what were the insights that came from everything that unfolded from there on?
Yeah. Yeah, well, that prayer, there was a prayer when I left Mexico, but the prayer that you're referring to was the day before I got the diagnosis. I I remember specifically saying or having a question, Jesus posing a question to me saying, "Do you want it fast or slow?" As if I had a choice. Whereas the script is written, how does that all work together with choice? So hopefully this episode will clear some of that up. And I remember thinking, well, I had been choosing slow for many years because many years before that I'd chosen fast, and it's too dramatic. Um, and and so I said slow for a while. And then this time, when he posed the question, I said, you know what? I just want it fast. Whatever I've been doing this last year has been really working well, and I'm ready for it. I've been joining with you in prayer every morning, 3, 4 in the morning. I'd wake up. I'm ready. And then the next day I got the diagnosis. So it was it was really my mind. And I remember consciously thinking, wow, okay, this is somehow part of a journey for me that is going to be swift and I'll move through a lot of things, but I asked for it. And Jesus does say in A Course in Miracles that nothing happens without your will. And I think the only problem is we don't recognize that it is our will, and that gap is the victim. That gap is the issue. And I don't think it's enough just to say the words, it's my will. But oftentimes I feel prayer is not so much to make things happen or to change things. It's more to bring into awareness that whatever's happening is what I asked for. Because Emily and I were talking about it today. A lot of times I'll put out a prayer, and then literally the very next scene on a movie is the answer to the prayer. But it's not like I changed the form or drew things closer to me in a faster or slower way. It's more like something in my consciousness or my mind decided to say, I want to recognize that what is happening is for me. And prayer is really just making that happen all the time. So you're seeing that the script is for you and unfolding for you. And you can't really change it, but you can use it to heal your mind in a forgiveness sense. So that was that thing. And then there was something else you brought up too. The second point. Oh, yeah, actually, I already addressed it with the TV thing. And so then what happened with the chemo was I actually, I don't know if I've said this already, but I received the results, and this was on a Thursday or a Friday, and I wasn't going to visit with the doctor till Tuesday. And I used ChatGPT to put the results up. And the results basically said that the MRI or the CAT scan after the 3 or 4 months of chemo could not detect the cancer. And he was hoping for a 20% reduction in the tumor. And it was actually 80 plus or 100%. And to me, it looked like 100%. So when I actually met with him, I thought the miracle had happened and it's over. It's gone. What? And he said, well, it may be still there, and the MRI can't pick it up. And so did the surgeon say that. And I ended up meeting with the radiologist, which that was a funny story too, because I wasn't supposed to go to him unless it was under 20% reduction, but it was over 80%. So why would I? But anyways, I met with the radiologist and he was hilarious because we sat down in the meeting, and first thing he said to me was, so what do you think? Do you want radiation? And I was like, this is my choice. But thank you. I'm glad. I guess I'm the captain of this ship. So it's an opportunity to pray. So I went into prayer, and I felt, well, if I don't need it and you're not feeling it's helpful, no, I do not want radiation, but let's explore it. So he went through the whole thing and said, well, there's this one lymph node that does appear to have shrank by a half, but we don't know if it's cancerous or not. And that's the only risk because it's on the margins, and radiation might take care of that. But it could be it's totally fine and will be removed through surgery. So in prayer, I didn't say that with him. But he said, well, sometimes people ask me, what would I do if it was me or my wife? And he said, funnily enough, if it was my wife, I couldn't take losing her. So I would tell her to do the radiation because then it's a guaranteed, we get it out. There's some side effects and da 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 da, but at least I know she's going to live. But if it was me, I'd probably feel pretty secure that there's no problem and I wouldn't do the radiation. So are you one of those people that kind of just trusts everything's going to work out well? Or are you someone that is a worrywart to the nth degree? And I burst into laughter. I'm like, I think it's going to work out wonderful.
Oh.
So he said, okay. So, and he wouldn't fill the sentence in. He said, so we're not going to do the radiation. I said, sounds good. I think I can convince the surgeon to do that. And the surgeon was fine with it. And when I went back to the oncologist, he's like, yeah, I never felt to do the radiation anyways. I was like, oh my God. It was another opportunity where I had to speak up and take responsibility.
Yeah. Before when you were speaking, and just now too, it comes to me that a prayer or that phrase that Jesus shares on the course where he says, I am responsible for what I see. I choose the feelings I experience and decide upon the upon the feeling I wish to experience, and everything that happens I have asked for and received as I have asked. So it
Yeah.
feels like all of that is an example of that, where you made a decision in the mind, and then everything that comes, like you said, that comes forth is a reflection of that decision. Sometimes it's not a conscious decision. Sometimes we don't know that we are deciding that, but we are deciding that. If we see it, it's because we want it there.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I actually, in the testimony I did with the talk at the LDS church, I told them about these results. And I said, this miracle is not because of the chemotherapy. I feel like the chemotherapy witnessed to the prayer that we all joined in, because it was a decision that was decided upon for it to be removed. And actually, yesterday, a lady from LDS dropped off some food, and we told her the results. I hadn't really the final results of the surgery, which they don't know about yet. And I said, yeah, it's all gone. It's over. It's done. And she said, wow, I remember in church when we made that prayer together that it would be over. And she just totally saw it as a witness
Oh,
to God, so to speak, which was
yeah.
beautiful.
Reflecting the miracle.
Yeah.
Yes, that's powerful. Like you made a decision, and then like even when you said in prayer, we all decided no, it's not needed as a joint.
Yeah.
You joined with everyone. We were in full
Yeah.
communication. It was agreed it's not needed, and then the witnesses come. Oh yeah, I didn't think that was needed before. And it's like, why didn't you tell me before? Because before you were doubting, and now you're sure. And so
Yeah.
now he's telling you.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. It's like the scene in The Matrix where Neo goes to the Oracle
Miracle.
and says, you're going to tell me that I'm the one or not, right? And she said, let me take a look at you. Hmm. And then I say, and he goes, I'm not the one. And she goes, sorry, kid, you're waiting for something. And, or something, you're waiting for something, or you're not ready yet, or whatever. And then the whole movie circles around in the next one, and he is the one. She walks in and he said, why didn't you tell me? You know, no one can tell you you're the one. You got to know that you're the one. And then everything witnesses back. And that works for teachers. It works for the world. There's no separation. Even a best teacher in the world can say the words, but it doesn't mean anything. They have to say it as a reflection of the timing that you're actually ready. So
Yeah.
that was a big part of this whole journey, was seeing when I was to step forward and communicate and say something. And even if I was met with initial resistance, have it be reflected soon after, like I shared about the blood work one that changed. Or this particular example was actually the strongest example of needing to step forward in security. And I kept bringing up with the surgeon, with the radiologist, and the oncologist, why is surgery really needed? Not to be arrogant or to stop it, but I said, couldn't it not be gone? And all three of them witnessed, um, it could be, but it's just not the gold standard of care. And I'm not in, and I didn't say this to them, but I'm not interested in the gold standard of care from a medical model unless it's given by Jesus. And I needed to feel that. And I had a lot of other my witnesses, my friends in the community, even friends in LDS too. Pretty much everyone said, "Oh, I would just get the surgery. I just get the surgery." And so I had enough witnesses that I said, "Okay, I'm going to trust. I trust this is Jesus. I trust this is God. I'm going for it." So there was no more trust that I was consciously able to give. And I decided to move forward with the surgery. And the surgery prep itself is pretty intense. You have to take these drugs. You have to fast for, I don't know, 36 hours. Then you have to drink water for 12 to 24 hours only. Then you have to take these high-powered drugs 3 times up until midnight that kills all the bacteria in your colon. So, and they're very nauseous. You know, the drugs are very nauseous. When you're on a full stomach, they're nauseous. So I'm on an empty stomach, and I ended up going into AFib, which is where the heart doubles and goes into 150. You know, normal heart rate is like 60, 70, 80, whatever, and beats per minute. And I was at 150, and it was an irregular rhythm. So every move I took, like lift a hand, sit up, it was like, whew, it was very exhausting. Just imagine running a high-paced marathon at an irregular heartbeat. And it's like, this is very disorientating. So I didn't sleep well. And, you know, long story short, we decided to go into the surgery time.
But just before you go into the surgery, Jam, I remember that you said that you had a prayer, like, Jesus, if this is not
Oh,
from you, then block it. Was that the
I
time?
did before this whole thing. I said, I trust you. I can feel the witnesses. But if this is not of you, block it somehow. Make it obvious that because I'm going for it, you know? So you can kind of see
And
where this
then
might be going.
next scene.
Next
Not
scene, I'm in
feeling
the
good.
hospital, tremendous prep. All the surgeons, which you know what it takes to prepare for surgery, like even just a little thing, you know, you need 2 to 3 nurses, you need admin assistant, you need the main surgeon, 2 to 3 residents minimum that do this whole thing with you, plus hospital time and scheduling. And I'm in there, they're coming with their hats. I'm in AFib, and they said, we can't do the surgery because your heart is too crazy. And, you know, I had some guilt that came up. I said, oh my God, did I make a mistake? Should I have gone to the emergency room to stop this or whatever? She said, no, no, no. Maybe you could have, but from what I'm about to say, you'll just see, no, it really didn't matter. She said, no, nobody made a mistake. We didn't make a mistake. You didn't make a mistake. These things happen. So we're going to send you to the emergency room now, get this fixed, and we'll reschedule. And she said, we'll do as quick as we can because we want to get this cancer out of you. And I burst into tears, not because I was concerned about having it done fast, um, but just because of the love and the care that I felt with everything. And
Yeah.
so the head nurse came in and said, we're going to wheel you down.
Yeah, that's beautiful because they were all prepared, all this team, everyone, and you're important. Like, in the sense, like, we love you, we are gonna take care of you.
Yeah,
There's no need to push this. Let's
yeah,
just do it gentle, like in a gentle way
yeah,
when you're ready,
yeah,
when your body seems to be ready, when you're
yeah.
prepared.
Meant a lot because even when they had me go see a cardiologist to make sure I'd be prepared for the next one, and when I actually saw him, his first response is, they should have just done the surgery and shocked you when you were done back into normal rhythm. He said, but they won't listen to me anyway. So he gave me this thing that helps keep your heart in a rhythm under high stress situations. So I made sure that it didn't happen when I needed to reschedule. So anyways, they go to the emergency room, and they gave me this private room, like everything's private rooms too. And you know, I don't have like this famous insurance or something like that. It's just the ultimate most basics you could ever get. And I'm just in there, and the doctor comes in. I'm like, oh, are you the cardiologist? And he said, no, no, I'm I'm an ER doctor. And I tried to tell him, I tried to call I had this doctor in Mexico that helped with this situation before. I said, hey, can we call my Mexican doctor and he'll tell you how to fix this? And he's like, that's okay. We're not going to do it that way. We're going to do this thing where we put these, like in the movies, um, I don't know what they're called, defibrillators or whatever.
Okay.
And they put one on your back and one on your here, and we're going to shock you back into normal rhythm. But in order to do that, we have to put you in a semi-conscious state where you're here, but you're not here. And it'll look like you're very in a very painful situation. And Emily might share more about that later. Because the body will like shake and do all these things, but you won't feel a thing. And I looked at Emily and he looked at Emily and she's like, should I be here in the room? And he's like, you can, but don't touch the bed and don't freak out when you see these things. And I was like, what's she going to say? She's like, yeah, I'll stay. And I was like, wow, because normally those are scary things for her. But then another emerged. So he told me, this is what we're going to do. And we're going to give you something to put you in the semi-conscious state. And then another emergency came, like some kind of traffic accident. So they had to all go. So I was sitting there for another hour with this high heartbeat thing. And and I used that time really beautifully because I went into prayer and I said to Jesus, I said, help. My first question was, why did this happen? Why after all this prep? Yeah, why after all this prep? I don't know. Am I having to go through this and have to do all this prep again for the surgery? It's a major thing. And he said, this was me. You're not ready for the surgery. And I said, but what do you mean? I trusted everybody around me. I trusted. But I don't know how it was in words, so it's hard to say. But the feeling was I understood that that's not enough. It was all I could do, so it wasn't wrong, but it wasn't enough for a full experience of healing. And he said, if you had gone into surgery now, you would not have had a good result with the healing after the surgery because your mind is not in complete alignment, in integrity, really. And I said, well, what can I do to get in integrity? I've already given everything I can do. And he said, well, that's not on you. That's on that's on me, which is really beautiful because it just shows how little we have to do in the awakening in terms of readiness. You can provide your willingness, but even abundant willingness has to come when it's ready. And readiness is not under our control. So he said, I will give you a series of assignments over the next few weeks to prepare your mind for this. And little did I know that first assignment was coming within a matter of minutes. But I was just so grateful because I always thought I could take control of the readiness and do something about it or make it happen or figure it out or do the right thing or follow guidance. And yeah, follow guidance, but it's more than that. It's just being so open and not knowing the guidance and willing to join. And so they came back in. Then my prayer was done. I told Emily about this. She said, oh, that's beautiful. They came back in and they said, okay, are you ready for this thing? And they had to have this woman there to make sure I would keep breathing because you can go and something not breathe or whatever. So I'll just keep going then. You have
Yes, keep going.
so then they gave me this thing and they said we're going to now give you some ketamine and propofol. And it didn't register like what that means, ketamine or propofol. It's like, oh yeah, just drugs in a hospital. And they're telling them the resident how to do it. He says, okay, do it. And then do it pretty quick. He said, no, you're going to go to this place. And it's best that you think happy thoughts. But before he even said that, I started in visualizing this light, but not visualizing. It was like this light Before they were even giving me the drugs, I was feeling this light in my mind. And I was like, oh, maybe I should just go there so I can have a good experience. And it didn't register that he was like, think happy thoughts because this is helpful. Because sometimes people have crazy dreams and you want it to be good ones. So I just decided I'm going to go towards this light. And then I heard Jesus say, the Spirit say, yes, just go towards this light. And then all of a sudden I realized everything clicked. I'm like, oh my God, they're giving me ketamine. This is like a version of heroin or something like that. I'm not too familiar with all that, or ayahuasca, or one of those peyotes kind of a thing. Like this is heavy duty, and I'm like, oh wow, this could be like, and boom, I was in this like very deep experience, and all I can say it was just like it overtook me completely. The body was like just I could feel it first in the body, but then it was way beyond the body. I just got within a second, I was just in this realm that like I try to describe like a normal prayer experience or listening to guidance as if I'm praying and I hear a voice. And sometimes, very rarely, you feel like the voice is your voice and it's you. And when you're following the guidance, you feel like, oh, that was always me. It's always what I wanted. Or the first time I picked up the Course in Miracles and read it out loud to people, I just had this feeling like I wrote this course. I wrote it. You know, it was like there's no separation. But this experience was very different. It wasn't like a voice in me. It was I want to say it was more like God. Like I was just with all my best friends, and I was with Jesus. I was with Francis. I was with David. I was with everybody. You know, just like all my best friends were there, and we were just playing. But it wasn't bodies playing. It wasn't even energy. It was just you knew they were all there. And I asked, I don't know how to explain it, but I asked this question. So some part of my mind said, because I kept hearing the word revelatory. I said, revelatory, revelatory. But I always thought a revelatory experience was, I don't really know what it was. I've never had one, but it was not this because it was like lights and visualizations, and you're going to the light and God and all the near death experiences or whatever, near light experiences. And that didn't sort of seem like that. But I said, is this a revelatory experience? Is that why I keep hearing the word revelatory? And it was so funny because he said, then I heard the voice again. He said, well, I wouldn't get so concerned about that, but it's revelatory to you, you know? So it wasn't like I could make it a thing. And I think that's the problem with a lot of these experiences that I'll have or people will have is it gets locked down. It's a thing. It goes away. And then you try to get back to a thing. And he didn't want me doing that. It was just like, stay with this beautiful experience. And I don't know how long that went for. It could have been hours. It could have been minutes. But then I would feel this like, Jason, I could hear this word, but it wasn't a hearing, you know, it was Jason. And I actually heard everybody in the room, the woman, Emily, the doctor, the resident, they were all so happy. And they're like, yeah, we're done now. Everything's done. I'm like, done? Are you kidding? I'm just beginning here. Like, this is, no, this done. It's not perfect. And they're like, Jason, can you feel me? And they try to pull a toe. Somewhere in my mind, I knew a toe was being pulled. Couldn't feel it. And I had to decide whether I wanted to answer the request. And I was like, there's no way I'm going back there. And so I'd stay with this thing and then I'd hear it again and think, well, maybe I'll just let them know so they don't get freaked out and I can stay here. But I'll do the minimal amount of work I can to get back and reassure them, which I even could feel that maybe this is people pleasing because David Hoffmeister would always say, you know, if you ever get the choice to go to the light or come back, go to the light. Don't come back. So I was like, consciously, I'm not going back, you know, but this might be going back. But I decided. So I went, and the second I decided to go back, um, the heaviest feeling I can describe to you, the densest feeling, like you're going from, you're in a hot air balloon, you're being lifted up, and you've just hit the earth in boom, you've hit the earth really hard and you feel it everywhere. That's not even adequate description because you'd be afraid of dying. This was just like the heaviest density. And then another layer of this, and then another layer, and another layer. And in some ways, you could say it was lighter, but it was only lighter because the contrast wasn't so great, if you know what I mean. And I was there. I'm like, toe, where's the toe? Toe. Oh, there it is. Okay, I can do it. Move the toe. Hear the voice. Oh, he's there. He's with us. Boom. I decide I'm back. I just let go of the whole thing and I went right back into this vast experience. And yeah, it just felt, yeah, I don't know. It's just beyond words, but just really beautiful. I stayed there and I don't even remember too much anymore. But I even got to a point where I wondered if any of it was real. And when I got home that night, I just burst into tears because I said to Emily, was any of this real? Because maybe it was just the drugs. But I had told her everything that happened along the way. And so she said, no, this was real. And boom, it came right back into awareness again. Not the full thing, but enough that just all this gratitude. So this kind of went on for a little bit. It felt like every 20 minutes or half an hour, they would, okay, try to grab my finger and have to make the same decision. Like, oh, come on, just let me stay here as long as I need to. But then I'd start to have thoughts like, oh, maybe this is an expensive room and I shouldn't take up time. So you could see the identity and the person was starting to come back into awareness. And then I went back again and do it, and they're like there, and boom, I went right back. So this went on a few times, and then I remember kind of in one of those times starting to be more, I won't, present's not the right word in this context, but present to worldly life and Emily being in the room. And I remember saying to Emily, I don't want to come back. I'm having such a blissful experience. I'm with all my best friends. And then I just started crying. I just had all this emotion. And she went and got a tissue and wiped the tear. And I could feel all this love from her and the doctors and the woman that was holding my head. And they were so happy to be with me in this experience. They were with me in it. We were all in this experience. It wasn't like I was having it and they weren't. But I didn't even want to ask them about it because I was so afraid of coming out of it. And so all this tear, she wiped it away and all this gratitude. And then I remember another tear coming. And I thought, oh, Emily, could you get that? But this is in my head, in my mind. And I knew that if I tried to find the mouth to say the words, it would put me back in the world. And I just was not willing to risk it. So I felt trapped in the sense that my tear was happening. I wanted it moved away with the love again, but I couldn't communicate it. And so I had to decide. Oh, I heard the words, don't control it, experience it. And so I thought, oh, don't worry if someone comes and wipes it. Don't even try to communicate, experience it. So I just felt the tear moving down and it wasn't a problem anymore. I was one with the tear. It was just like this. And then, boom, I went right back into that void again. I was out of the world, right back. And then he said, now this is what you're going to take from this experience. And this is why I organized everything for you, was like he organized a surgery that wasn't going to happen, everything was when things happen that you think shouldn't be happening, don't try to control it, experience it, let it move through. Let it move through, let the emotions move through. And that is what, over I want to say time, but over repeated instances is going to clear your mind of control and bring you back to me. That's what I want you to keep from this whole experience. And then basically it wasn't like I consciously or remember deciding, but I was somewhere boom, I started coming back in. And there was a tipping point. I remember the tipping point where I thought, oh, I can't go back there anymore or whatever, or something like not I wasn't even regretful. I was just like, I knew it was over, and so grateful. And boom, I couldn't move or anything. Like I was not attached to whatever, but all of a sudden I was fully back in the body. And I said, I'm going to vomit. I'm going to vomit. They grabbed the bag, threw it in front of my mouth, boom, and I just kept vomiting like out of nowhere. And the only thing I can explain is the contrast was so, because remember, I had no food for, we're going on like 48, 56 hours. I'd had no liquids. I wasn't allowed liquids. So I don't even know what I was vomiting. It was like driving, basically. And yeah. And then I remember asking, like, did you guys feel very, very happy with me and what happened? And the guy, they're like, well, it was a normal experience. And I just remember thinking, what? Like that is so weird. No, no, that's not possible. And then the doctor said, he had gone by this time, but he came back and he said, so what happened in your dream? Tell me. And I remember the first words was, I was with God. And it was the most incredible unifying experience. That was what I was to say, so to speak. And I had this thought, oh, that's too much for him. And then a smaller version of it was, um, I was with all my best friends. It was a great experience. And I said that, and I experienced a half boost. I don't know, boost is the right word. Like I was in all this love to share it, and I experienced half the love because I gave away half of it. And I realized the problem was not him, that he couldn't handle it. It was a problem was my perception of it. And if I perceive someone, I'm perceiving myself and the world as half in love. And so I give half the love and I experience half the love. But if I give the full thing, I'm worthy of the whole thing. Like it was a very direct, acute, like a feeling. It wasn't just an intellectual thing. It was, you need to give what you're told to give. It still doesn't mean like you just, everything's bliss, all the time. It's, you have to give what you're told to give so you can have the full experience. And people are just thoughts or what I felt in the moment, reflections or opportunities to keep giving so that I will remember it over and over again.
Yeah.
So,
Wow. And
yeah.
even when you were saying that, even because you were given the words to say, and then also there is this aspect of control, like controlling what you'll say, like, oh no, that's too much for him to hear. So I will too, like I chose what to say. I will dim it down. And
Yeah.
then but it's not because you said something different, it's
Oh,
because you didn't choose fully with the spirit. There was a decision was made, like a fear of
yeah.
the love or the truth to be full in awareness, because if you give it away then you'll experience its fullness.
Yeah. 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 It's even why I'm doing this, like in my heart. I don't know if hoping is the right word, but just praying that it keeps it alive and, I get the emotion and experiences. Yeah. Somebody asked me, or like I told somebody about this soon after it happened, and they said something like what was it like coming back or something? And I said it was like the closest thing I could describe it was like a series of decisions, because oh, it was heavy and it was this and it was this, but what part of it was I involved in? And I just remember a series of very fast acting decisions that almost like once you took one, the other one was there, and yeah, okay, and then boom, the whole world was there. But in the vastness, there is no world. It's there's not like a world, like you're there with God, so to speak. You're there. It's not like he's thinking those thoughts I was thinking. Um, it's an expensive room, or no, there's no room. There's no emergency room. There's no doctor. But the problem is thinking, well, how are they, or what's and then boom, you're in it, you experience it,
if
kind of
you
a,
if you think that there is an external world, then the external world appears because
yes,
you're
it's a
thinking it.
choice. It's
Mhm.
a choice. That's why God doesn't know of this world. It's not, luckily there's a spirit, this Holy Spirit is like a bridge, so to speak, but he really does not know of this world.
Yeah.
There is no world. There
Yeah.
is, I had a real experience of there is no world. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank God. Yeah, and yeah, this morning I opened the course randomly. I didn't get a chance to tell you, but I randomly. It's never random, but I opened it up in the section that is called How Many Teachers of God Are Needed to Save the World? And in the last paragraph it says, but it just says what you're saying in Jesus's words, and it says oneness and sickness cannot coexist. God teachers choose to look on dreams a while. It is a conscious choice, for they have learned that all choices are made consciously with full awareness of their consequences. The dream says otherwise, but who would put their faith in dreams once they are recognized for what they are? And then it says, awareness of dreaming is the real function of God's teachers. They watch the dream figures come and go, shift and change, suffer and die. Yet they are not deceived by what they see. They recognize that to behold a dream figure as sick and separate is no more real than to regard it as healthy and beautiful. Unity alone is not a thing of dreams. Like that, what you were experiencing, like that vastness, being with God, unity. Unity alone is not a thing of dreams. And it is this God teachers acknowledge as behind the dream. Like behind the dream, there is this oneness. And beyond all seeming, beyond everything we seem to see with the five senses, and yet surely theirs, like the oneness that's ours. And I was, yeah, when I read this morning, that experience that you're sharing right now came to mind because, yeah, like what you were saying, like there is no world. An illusion is an illusion. It's an illusion. Sick body, healthy body, all one category, illusions. And what's behind all of those illusions, like beyond, behind the veil, like the oneness and love and unity. And yeah, you were just, yeah, like sharing that experience that you were having, and
Yeah.
Jesus explains.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thoughts coming to me is how profound a full commitment is. You know, like even as best I could trust all those around me to go into it. It wasn't enough, so to speak, for the surgery, but it was full commitment to what was guided. He said to me, he also said before the whole boom, he said, I do want you to do the surgery, but I have some assignments to help prepare you so your mind's in integration. So the full commitment, as if the surgery was then, and then he can use that. So you never know, like you give your full commitment to a direction, but it's not the outcome that's important. It's the lining up with the mind and the guidance in Jesus and the Spirit, because then he can do things like this or use you in ways that kind of like don't let left hand know what the right hand is doing. Like you commit, but then he's using this hand to do all the miracles that are involuntary through him. So you give him your left fully. I'm with you, and then here's the miracle working. It's kind
Yeah.
of
That's beautiful because it was all, yeah, everything was involuntary. Like you said, yes, I'm going ahead. And then everything that went forth, like the body seemingly not prepared, not being ready for the surgery, but it was just all involuntary as a reflection of in the mind, you're not ready. And then he like he said, I am behind it all and I am preparing you. And this is part, like that experience obviously was part of the preparation. For you to
yeah,
take the next steps.
yeah, yeah. That was the big one. Like, would I choose the surgery and have a healthy body or that? no question. That. So it's like he gave me what I really wanted. And then there was a moment where one of the nurses was in there. She's like, yeah, this is pretty intense. You had to prep, not the kind of day you thought you were going to have. And I said, no, no, no. She said, yeah, you probably need about a month before you do the surgery again. And I heard that. I was like, a month. That sounds good. But then when I got home that night from this, the surgeon was so sweet. She called me personally and said, how are you doing? Did you get your heart back and everything? I said, yeah, I had this amazing, I said, I had this amazing experience. I didn't want to hold back again. So I was like, it was religious. And she's like, that's the propofol talking. So I was like, whatever. But she said, well, I can they'd already booked me for the next Monday. And I, not only body wise, which I thought I can't do that because it's just too much, but I feel Jesus needed more time to give me the assignment. So I said, oh, how about a month? Can we do a month? And again, I had to speak up, and she was like, well, yeah, we could, a month. And then at some point I said, well, I'd be even open to 3 weeks. And you could tell she kind of relaxed a bit with that. And she's like, okay, yeah, that's good. That's before the end of the year. That works for a bunch of reasons. Let me get my scheduler back to you, and we'll let her confirm. And called me back in 5 minutes, said, yeah, we're going to do it in 3 weeks. Da, da, da. And I was like so relaxed because that was like the minimum that I felt was needed. And then I did have a series of assignments. Yeah, some really beautiful ones actually that helped prepare my mind for the full surgery thing. So, yeah.
Do you have an assignment that came to mind that helped prepare
Yeah,
you?
I have two of them actually. One of them there was lots of mini ones, really, like in terms of joining with friends around here and more prayer and assignments. And I got to do things that were helpful because the body was good, so to speak. Because after surgery, it's like 4 to 6 weeks recovery, right? So this was 1 or 2 days recovery from this. But more importantly, for the healing, I had this grievance that arose with somebody, and I forget exactly. I have to like let it come, but I remember thinking, how am I going to forgive this or whatever? And I just went into prayer, and Jesus said, give it to me. And he said something or did something that showed me, first of all, I was wrong with a certain perception, but also just gave me enough where I said, I just want to be wrong. I want to be shown very differently. And somehow something came into my awareness that totally, the specifics are gone. This is the best I can do. That showed me how happy I was that it played out. I wasn't even upset. I was happy about it playing out. And the moment I had that, wow, this both experiences in one. Then he said, you see how important it is to follow guidance, and you trusted me, and all you have to do is trust me, and that's the answer to everything. And you feel, oh, I felt like Jesus trusted me. Once I trusted this friend, and Jesus then trusted me completely. It was like this, it was a full circle thing. He like trusted me and loved me, and I was forgiven for everything in that moment. I was like completely like, oh my God, I feel so good. I feel so trustworthy. And he said, that's why you just need to trust that I'm saying the surgery is guided. And I don't know why that's different than when everybody else was telling me it was guided. Somehow I just had this feeling like, well, if Jesus is telling me it's guided, I can just merge with that and trust with that. And that was the missing piece somehow. So this was like the last one. I had a series of assignments, and this was the last one. And I remembered feeling like, whoa, I'm actually ready for the surgery now. Because I don't know if this fully came through, but somehow this trust was different than just trusting everybody around me, like my mind. Oh, this was why. I remember now. Because I kept trying to understand why I would need to do this for the possibility. I needed to understand. I was trying to understand. And I was hoping that something would come to understand. And when I just didn't understand how to forgive this friend, but went for it anyways and received that experience. He said, see, you just need to trust, and that's it. You don't need to understand. Understanding is a block to my plan. And I was like, oh, so I needed to fully understand that understanding is a problem, is a different kind of understanding. It was a heart thing. And so then I was ready for the surgery. Wow, there's nothing that's going to come to me that's going to make me understand. I just have to, if it's guided, it's provided. If it's given, it's given, and just go with that. And I felt such a peace in my heart that I had not felt with the surgery, but I had felt with other steps. So I recognized that peace and I knew I was ready. So it was kind of, yeah. I forget the other specific assignments, but that was the most important.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's so powerful because yeah, yeah, like you wanted to understand why if I'm experiencing the miracle, why then do I have to do the surgery? And then
Mhm.
it's like you don't need to understand, just trust that it's being guided. And then at the beginning you couldn't fully you were going ahead, but in a deeper level, you still haven't you still hadn't accepted that step. You
Exactly.
so it would be like going against your like I don't know if this is correct to say like against what you want like
Yeah.
in a deeper level you didn't want to have the surgery so
Oh,
if you were gonna move along with it you're gonna have a probably very painful experience so you have to come to that deeper acceptance where you can truly say yes I really
yeah.
feel that this is my next step and I want to do it because it's coming from within because there is not amount of convincing that can happen for a mind that doesn't want to accept or doesn't want to see.
Exactly. And if I'm personally choosing, it means there's guilt underneath, and guilt will manifest as pain in somehow. And do I want to add that to surgery? It's like it's too much, and so then when we did do the surgery, they actually they, it was pretty standard going into the actual surgery, but they pulled it out, the section out, and felt it and everything, and they'd said they couldn't see any cancer in it. So that was the first thing. She said, but we're sending it off to what there's a word for that when they analyze. Uh, yeah, I don't know the word, but they analyze it.
I
and
don't know.
and I could still feel this doubt come up, like, oh, I could feel it, but I remembered I didn't need to understand, and so I just. But the doctor, the surgeon was reflecting, but it's still good we had it, like almost as if I was still feeling, she was still reflecting that. And, but somewhere I didn't really care. I was like, no, no, because it led to all these other miracles in the hospital, which again, the whole thing was just so worth it. It was just so amazing. Because I did have a difficult recovery from the surgery for the first few days because something happened. They put your colon to sleep completely, and it's they say it gets angry and it doesn't want to wake up. And every time it wakes up, it's very painful because they've moved however many feet of colon is in. They've moved it in the body, and it's angry. It's new position and everything. And so I developed like an air pocket that food or drink couldn't go through, and it was extremely painful. So anyway, she came back the next day, the pathologies came back and she said, oh, it did have cancer in there. And I could still feel this little like, oh, good. Like, who wants to feel good there was cancer? But it was almost like proof that you should have done the surgery, or whatever. But so Emily really relaxed and burst into tears with that. And so, yeah, then a whole series of miracles happened at the hospital. I don't know if it's for this moment or you have thoughts, but yeah.
Yeah. Like that's amazing how like if there was any reminding doubt even if it was not in full awareness like oh even if you would have said I'm cured I feel like I don't need anything else but if there was any reminding doubt on the back of the mind well we'll see if in the future maybe something happens it's like now like there is no doubt like everything is like from every witness like clear clear clear
Yeah.
clear like clear mind like
Yeah.
gone and it's like oh like without a question
Yeah.
so it's like a true reflection of the healing that took
Yeah.
place
Yeah. Well, even today, it was, I got a call yesterday, right when we were talking, preparing for this podcast, the first one. And they said, because I had a port, which is a thing that they use to put chemicals in to do the chemotherapy. And it's surgery. You need surgery to get it in. And I was hoping that I could get that out because I had to have this surgery and there's lots of healing. Why not have this heal at the same time? So you can't have baths and blah, blah, blah. But I didn't want to force it or whatever. And they took a week before they could even call me back. And so they called me yesterday and I thought it'd be in the new year. And they said, are you on blood thinners, blah, blah, blah. And I said, no, no, no. They said, well, do you want this out before Christmas? And I was like, ah, I do. I think I do. And she said, well, do you want it out tomorrow? I said, I would love it out tomorrow if I can. But I don't want to push. I said, she burst into laughter. She's like, tomorrow morning, yours. And the absolute earliest, 7:15 in the morning. So literally within 24 hours, more like 18 hours, the very last thing. And so I went in this morning. I just got back like an hour ago. Uh, and I walked in and everybody was, you're here to get your port out. Oh my God. I don't know if they said God, but that's amazing. What a miracle. So has it been all a success? Like, is everything? I'm like, it's a success. We can celebrate. They're like, yay. And even the doctor came in, the main doctor that was going to take it out. He looked at me. I swear he was going to cry. He was like, so can I congratulate you? Is this port coming out? Because I think I put it in. There's so many doctors and nurses. And I said, I think it was you too. And there was like so much love between us. I had all these tears. I just wanted to like burst out about. They didn't like fully come out, but I could feel all this emotion. And I was like, I'm so glad you're my doctor. He's like, me too. I'm so glad my doctor and I'm your doctor. And so we go into I don't know if I should tell this. Maybe I'll tell that part later. There's this huge miracle in the surgery kind of.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Everyone was like rejoicing and
Yeah,
celebrating with you, and how swift it is. Like, no delay. Like, once
yeah,
it's complete, like, move. Like, don't look back, keep
yeah,
moving. Like, even like this podcast, like, okay, it's done. Share the miracles,
yeah,
give it all away, get
yeah,
like everything removed, celebrate.
yeah. I mean, it's been amazing. Like the whole thing took like from diagnosis to today, let's say 8 months. So you could say, well, that's 8 months. But when you think of what's involved with that, like how many encounters and I must have met with 30, 40, 50 different nurses, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different doctors, multiple times. With all those encounters, I never had a doctor make me wait. They were always on time. I never had to hassle with finances, and struggle and have it be an issue. I never had to wonder about anything except that first 3 weeks, which was used for healing those initial death thoughts, even. So that was part of the plan. It was just like, and whenever I'd have questions, I had a phone number to call any time of day. And I learned, when to ask questions and how to ask questions. I think I talked about on the last one because there's questions that come from stabilizing fear in the mind, and then there's questions that lead to a holy encounter and a miracle. And do you choose to be in love with your surgeon in the moment, or do you choose to use that time to ask her questions so that you don't feel fearful in the next few days? I had to learn to put the miracle first, really, over seeming life and maybe not full life and death, but painful experiences versus. And it was worth it. It was just all so worth it.
Putting all the trust in the miracle,
Yeah,
putting it into practice.
yeah, over and over and over. Because sometimes I decide to show up early to the appointment to just really pray and make sure I'm here only to be truly helpful. Because getting can take so many forms. Getting can be, I want an answer to a question. That is getting, unless Jesus gives you the question to ask, which was pretty rare. Most of the time, I don't know if I talked about this, but I really wasn't given a lot of intellectual understanding about the whole process so that I couldn't try to make something of it, and then out of fear, wait a minute, you did it. It was more just going with the flow and trusting.
Yeah. And then, yeah, another thing that comes to mind, how obviously it has been all about prayer, and then a lot of lessons like you are sharing just now in communication. And there is one that comes to mind. I don't know if you want to share about it, but at the very end, I think it was that you were feeling like, I don't want to be a patient anymore. I want to go out of the hospital, like as a personal decision. I want out, and I will personally get myself out. But then there was a way that Jesus showed you how to really transcend the concept of you being a
Yeah,
patient.
yeah, yeah. Well, so they told me I was going to have surgery Monday and likely be out when 3 to 5 days. So say Wednesday to Friday was when I was supposed to be out. And as of Tuesday or Wednesday, I was like, how in the world can I be out Wednesday or Thursday or even Friday? And the way they were talking was like, yeah, probably Thursday morning, And I'm like, I've got 5 holes to cut. It's like, come on. And I just felt it was rushed. And I'm like, oh, this is the hospital system just trying to get you out and everything. And I did have this thought. I hope something happens that it's a little bit longer because I don't feel ready. Then that ileus thing happened. They called it an ileus with an air pocket or whatever, which I don't know if that's something. I guess it all come because of my will, but I moved through that, and then they said you're going to need till Monday. And when they said Monday, I was like, that's too long. So you can see I'm making decisions about what I feel, and part of it's intuitive. You can feel it's, and it was too short, and that's too long. But it came this day, I think it was Friday night or something, and I thought, I saw this movie that really expanded my mind, and I was just in this like, wow, it's really all mind, and I just felt so good, and I was past the hard part, blah blah blah, and I felt the problem is now I'm identifying with a patient. I'm believing I'm a patient, and help me with this. I was starting to get into that
Roll.
patient role, and I'm like, that's not it. Something's wrong. So I thought, I'm out. I'm no longer a patient. That's the solution, and something's true about that. But Jesus had to train me. Like, so I called the chart head nurse or whatever, and I'm ready to go. Can you? But I don't want to be arrogant about it. Check with the surgeon. It's Thanksgiving weekend, so there's like a series of people that I have to check with. And so she said, "Okay, I'll let them know." So she tells them, she comes back, and she's like, "Yeah, they want you to make sure you can eat solid food because I'm going on like 8 days of no food now, or 6, 7, 8 days of no food." Before they'll let you out because they don't want you to have troubles and try to have you come back. It's a nightmare. So I said, okay, that sounds good. I was totally with her. And she said, and then we'll let you out tomorrow, Saturday. And I said, what did they say when you when you told them I want to leave? I'm ready. She said, he really said that? Like that was their response. Like he was in so much pain the other night. Like what is he like? They didn't say this, but is he crazy? So great, I'm trying. And then I felt into it the next day, and I wasn't even ready to eat solid food, so I just had soups and really gentle things. And I told her, I'm not ready. I'm ready to go Sunday. And long story short, it um I was worried that I'd interfered in the whole thing by this whole thing, but Jesus was showing me that no, you got to keep communicating and just don't have an agenda. And you need to learn, I had a deeper experience with it, which we'll probably talk about, but you need to learn to communicate, say your part, but say it in a way that you have no agenda of what's going to happen. And that is how the script just happens so naturally for you and everybody. And there's no fight. It's when you're not communicating that, since you're all one mind, nobody knows what's happening. And there's this like, is it this or this? And everybody, as part of the plan of healing, everybody knows a piece of the puzzle. But until you say your piece, because you're supposed to come together, brothers are supposed to come together, you can't wake up to you are your brother to go home to God. So all of these situations and setups are to undo patience and doctor roles. And I had like in that hospital alone, I had 20 something nurses, different nurses in a week. 6 different doctors, one main surgeon who was overseeing all of it. But I had to learn to just keep communicating through it all. And some were like this to me. I'm like, okay, fine. I even had to say at one point, you know, try again to communicate. And in the end, through communication, I learned that they're not doctors, they're not nurses, and I'm not a patient. We're all in this together. And I did have to take on the patient role initially fully, and I got lost in it. Not pretend like I'm just a Course in Miracles student. I'm not a patient. No, I'm not. I'm in for surgery. I'll accept the patient role. What do you want to give me? Give me the drugs. Give me the surgery. You're the doctors. You're the nurses. But it needs to be used by Jesus to undo that, so that when I authentically left on the right day, I even said, because they actually let me go Sunday, I said, "Are you sure it's not Monday? I don't want to push. I feel ready, but." And they said, no, we're all in agreement. It's Sunday. But even that, something happened at the very end where I won't go into the details, but I they said, oh, we need you to do another test and please give us a sample and then we'll send it off and make sure there's not an infection. And I couldn't give them a sample. And I had no control over it. And so I had to wait 5 hours. And I still didn't have control of leaving. I still left Sunday, but it was at like 5 or 6 p.m. And the moment before they discharged me, I said, what is this lesson? Why am I waiting 5 or 6 hours? Why? I just, you know, I was able to give them a sample. The minute they asked for the sample, I couldn't give them a sample. What is going on? And he said, you still weren't ready. All of this, you could never leave, you could never control the leaving, and you could never delay the leaving. I just wanted you to know that everything is in my direction. Now he literally said the words, now you're ready to go. Once, because I had this prayer, which is part of this deeper prayer of like, why was this whole thing difficult? And what, did I have some part? Did I do something wrong? He was trying to show me in this whole week that he was in control of everything, the nurses, the Ilias, the drugs, the no drugs, and a doctor story, which I'll just tell you about. And once I got the lesson that he's literally in control of everything, everything, not like the good things or the bad thing, and not the bad things, everything. It's just our judgments that make it crazy. He said, now you're ready to go. The nurse walks back into the room. I'm not kidding. She just opens the door. I turned to Emily. I said, we're ready to go. She walks in the room and she said, you can't give us a sample. Everything must be fine. They've cleared you. You can leave now. And it was like showing you that it's all mind. It's all mind. So he confirmed the lesson once again. He's in control. He controlled the nurse to even come in and free me. You know what I mean? It was
wow.
really
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, like that's also when Jesus says, what couldn't you accept if you knew that everything was planned for one that loves you and wants your good? Like everything is beautifully planned by one who loves us. It's only when we try to resist it that the difficulty comes. But once we accept it and use it for learning the lessons that our mind needs to learn, like communication, like you, instead of deciding by on your own, communicate your heart and then let the chips fall where they may, and then you know that you didn't do anything wrong and you didn't also do anything right, so therefore the pride also gets undone. But you are not the one deciding. If you just communicate your part and then like put your like let go. But if you don't say it, then you can also go into the victim, like, oh, this is happening to me, or you not like not knowing, not knowing what's happening. Then the moment we allow ourselves to communicate, and also knowing that we're worthy to communicate. And I think that is another lesson that you had, where I think you received from Jesus that you were to go forth as if you're loved because you are, and therefore communicate as if you're loved because you are. And then there was a lesson like, oh, I'm worthy of this communication. I'm worthy to have a clear mind. I'm worthy to have connection.
This was massive for me in terms of my lifetime healing, because I was praying and I'd heard, after most of the struggle came through, I was like, why was that so hard? And his answer was, well, I'm about to give you a lot of wisdom right now. And without this having happened, again, forcing you to beg, not beg like he needs us to beg, but to be so open to what he's going to say, you wouldn't have received it all. Not that he made me go through that. It's not what I'm trying to imply, but he said, this lifetime has been a series of taking major leaps to face major blocks that would have taken you many lifetimes if, for example, you didn't have David in your life, like accepting David as a guide, a teacher. He said, like for one thing, I had always wanted to be, when I was younger, like people would have asked me, what did you want to be? I did go through engineering, became an engineer, but my passion would have been like to have been like Tony Robbins or something, like inspiring people with big talks. And so not that I did that, but I was sent on the road a lot initially with David or Kirsten and doing tours and speaking and speaking and speaking, like in my mind, thousands of hours or whatever. And I didn't realize it, but a lot of it was, even though the words themselves were true, it was like there was this self-concept as a teacher, part of it that kind of limited fully being used by Jesus and always coming from the heart and the timing and not being too hard at sometimes or holding back out of fear at other times, like all sorts of limitations when it's coming from the concept. It was like I was repeating the words to myself, teach what you would learn, but Jesus talks, teach what you would learn is teach an attitude. So the attitude has to be reflected back to you, and he said, but you needed to play that out. And so you did it in a supportive way. And, you took your knocks. I had a lot of knocks with that because it was the self-concept. And David was helping pull me through it, but also some knocks came from it that only he could do, so to speak. I don't think he was consciously, but it was just involuntarily through him. But it saved me a lot of time instead of become a lifetime of becoming a guru and trying to be something in the world. It was like, oh no, here's some years, play it out. Now, okay, all I want to do is God. Just want the heart. Okay, if I'm supposed to talk, fine, but it's only because it's you doing it. And so that was the first thing. And then all of a sudden I had all these memories of people where I'd felt I'd abandoned them or they had abandoned me. Like I'd left assignments too early in my mind, or they left me too early, and I just couldn't get, this guilt was always there. And he said, no, you don't have to look back like you left the assignments too early. Those were all perfect. The underlying abandonment does need to be healed by me, but that's a long-term plan. And the reason it sparked it was because earlier that day, the surgeon, they call them residents, they're doctors, but they're still in like some kind of a training. And they would come in at 6 a.m. 4 of them would come in. How you doing? How's it going? What's going? I'm not kidding. 3-4 minutes tops. Take a look. Put your shirt up. Take a look. Other room. Okay, great. I don't even think they said, do you have any questions? They'd say, how are you feeling? But I would try to get some questions in. And that morning, I tried to get some questions in. And I actually said the words, do you have some time for some questions? And I could tell right away the head doctor, at least in my perception, see, it's not personal. She would look to her friend, and her friend said, I can answer those questions for you if you need to move on. And I don't know why, whether I was scared or whatever, I didn't want to lose the opportunity. So I fired through my questions and got my answers, but felt completely unfulfilled and felt terrible when they left. And they left, and I just sat there and I was like, oh, I feel abandoned again. I feel like I made a mistake. I screwed up. Like, what did I do wrong? And that's when he was telling me about this whole abandonment thing and said, now this time, not this time, what I want you to do next time is you need to act as if you're loved. And I never liked that terminology. Like I read it in Neil Diamond Walsh, like act as if. And not to get into that too much, because Resta, she's a songwriter that traveled with David, and she asked David a question one time about the world. What do you mean there is no world? And he said, well, you act as if there is no world. And somehow I feel like Jesus was the same kind of thing. Like rather than acting as if you're not loved all the time, what if you just come from a place where you are loved and we'll work on that together. So I said, well, what does that mean? He said, next time, he wasn't even referring to the doctor, it was just anytime. Next time, remember that you need to join with the person and ask them if they want to have this discussion with you. Ask them if you want to go do this journey together. Ask them. Don't just pray with me alone and then always wonder if the other person is with you. Even if it was guided, you'd still be wondering if they're in alignment with it. And it's just so ask, be together in it. I thought, okay, sounds kind of simple, but I'll give it a try. I don't know if it was right in that moment. Within an hour, the doctor, that same doctor, came back in the room again with that high energy again. And she said, I got one of your questions answered, and da 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 da. And I had more questions. And I looked at her and I said, thank you. By the way, I have some more questions, but I don't want to do it in a rushed state of mind. I'm not saying she was. I just don't want to be rushed because I felt rushed. So when you have a moment, and if you would like to as well, could I ask you those questions? You just let me know the time. She said, I came back in to answer your questions. She pulled up a chair and sat beside me. We talked about her daughter living in the same town I was living in. We talked about her hobbies. I was like, what the? It was like an immediate reflection. And we were in love. Like we were like, and my questions were meaningless compared to that. And it was like showing me that all the questions, even all the patient hospital thing, everything we do is always just an opportunity to be in love together. And the moment that happens, the questions are meaningless and they're just the backdrop. And it's like that with every life situation, they're backdrops. And I had a genuine sense of that abandonment disappearing. And when she left the room, it was like all of those assignments started dissolving. I don't think of them in this moment like I did something wrong, like I did before, you know. They're all dissolving in the present assignment of healing that abandonment. So like act as if you're loved, come learn to come from a new place of being together with somebody and that they're not always trying to push you away. And it was really profound for me. So
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much, Jason. They're very powerful and practical insights. Thank you for sharing them. You can like apply them like immediately. That's the beauty of Jesus. It's like you receive the wisdom and then it's like practical application. Apply now, apply now, apply now. And it's like, yeah, everything, even that mystical experience that you had of the light and, you know, the tear that went down the face is like, experience it. Don't try to control it.
yeah,
And then it's like, oh, it's immediately you can apply that to every day, like
yeah,
bring that insight into the mind and just apply, like experience it. Don't try to control it, communicate. Don't try to control the outcome. Just very, very practical and very profound.
very practical. Like listen, follow, listen. We don't know how to get out of this, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I could wrap everything up in just the one last miracle for the end of this second part or something.
Yes, yes, wonderful.
Because it was just the last thing that happened to me today is I told you I met with the doctor who took this thing out. And so we're in there and basically I'm fully conscious. Like they didn't need to sedate me this time or anything. So they put this thing that you can't see anything here. And he's doing the surgery here. And my head's looking that way. And so I can see everything and talk. And they're playing this beautiful Christmas music. And they're like, wow, who made this soundtrack? Like, this is really soft and vibrant. I'm speaking too. I'm like, yeah, this is really cool. I really like it. And then all of a sudden I hear to talk this light experience that I just shared. And I have this thought to share it with him. And I'm like, oh, I don't know, you know. And I thought, I asked, I said, is this something I can share? And I had this vibrant feeling. And I thought, he said, yeah, you can share that. Very light. And so I just started. I said, yeah, this whole this is what I said. I said, I'm doing a podcast this afternoon to share my whole experience of this cancer journey because I've had so many miracles. Immediately, he's like, really? That's amazing. Who are you doing the podcast with? Oh, I said, a friend. I said, so much has been good. Like when my first surgery got canceled, I had this light experience where I felt like I was with God. And I said, some people might say it's the drugs, but I felt it was very deeply profound for me, and it was worth everything, And he's like, "Are you religious?" And I said, "Well, yeah, religious or spiritual." And he's like, "Oh, this is so amazing. I have so many people that tell me this, and I know that there's a place like this. There's another world. And he's like, I just watched this movie called After Death or something that talks all about this, and there's just so much more than what we can think and perceive." And he said, have you seen the series The Chosen? This is what he says to me.
No.
Dallas Jenkins, The Chosen. I'm like, I love that series. And then he turns to his guy over there who's just kind of in the distance. He's like, he says to him, I don't know what you think about Jesus and all that, but you got to watch The Chosen. It's like they've never had this kind of a talk. You can tell. And this is Dallas Jenkins made it, and he explains how it's based on biblical facts, but they take some liberties because he's like, he fills in the sentence because nobody really knows what happened, right? They're like, yeah, but you can feel the love underneath. And he's like, that is so important. And then something else happened, and we just kept talking, and they kept going. And I'm just sitting there like, oh, this is my,
No.
this is my conversation, hearing the whole thing, like a true holy encounter. And then he finishes it up, wraps it away, and he's like, I'm so happy you're done this thing. Good luck with your podcast, and thank you. And just go and celebrate. Go and celebrate whatever you need.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Wow. And this time it's like, wow, you heard and you asked and then
Yeah,
you gave it away, and then all of the love came back to you.
yeah, exactly.
And here we are sharing with everyone. Oh, so beautiful. Thank you so, so much, Jason. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I feel these podcasts and these episodes have been truly a gift for me. I feel this is like, yeah, I had healing even like going towards you and say, like, I feel because I had this thought in my mind, just go towards Jason, ask about the podcast. But the part of my mind was like resisting it, I guess, fear of the love, because the moment I shared it, I felt so much love, like taken over by love, taken over by this presence. I couldn't like sleep actually. And all I could think about was you, the podcast, and all the love that I had. And I was like, oh, thank you, God, for this assignment,
yeah,
Spirit,
yeah,
for this assignment. It's truly, yeah, a gift. And it's like, yeah, when we pray, we listen and we follow the instructions that are given, then yeah, it's for the love, it's for the present moment love and the joining and the connection. And yeah, just joining with you has been so much joy has been in my heart. And yeah, it's so practical. Every miracle that you shared, I know we connected before too, to share some of these miracles, that was the first time that you were sharing them. And I felt like immediately I was able to apply them and felt the miracle after it. So yeah, it's been a gift. Thank you so much
yeah,
for going through the healing. I feel like you have done it for all of us. And yeah, I feel the how do, like we're go like the time is collapsing with that when our brother accepts a miracle in the mind, like we are all going with them. And I just feel so
yeah,
blessed because I feel that you are taking me with you, like all the lessons that you learn like are collapsing time. And I'm just so very grateful. Thank you.
yeah. Thank you for pulling it out of me, and you're the perfect one. I didn't know how this was gonna happen at some day, but it happened literally on the last day of everything. It's amazing, really. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. And thank you everyone for listening in. And we'll see when the next one comes in. They're coming very spontaneously. I learned to communicate and let go, control ourselves, and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know when the next one is gonna be, so we will see when the spirit has the next one in store for us. Thank you very much. Bye for now.